As Denver pushes to bring all employees back to offices, questions are coming up about the vaccine and legalities around it. So we're taking our questions to our 9 News legal expert and MSU Denver professor. Whitney Traylor joins me this morning. Good morning, Whitney.
Good morning, Natasha. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday, yes. So some people are still hesitant to go back into the office, afraid that it's not safe. And if an employee feels not safe in the workplace, can they legally refuse to return to work?
This is such a tough issue, and I think there's so many variables that come into play because an employer has a duty to provide a safe workplace under statutory and common law. And so there's actually a series of lawsuits already going on from people who have believe they contracted the virus at work. So the question is, can the employee show that it is really an unsafe environment? Because under particularly the OSHA statute, the employer has the duty to provide a safe physical environment. So the question will be, are people getting sick? Is the employer taking precautions, CDC mandated or suggested or otherwise? So those are going to be the questions. I think ultimately, though, if an employee doesn't show up, the employer does have a right to terminate them for a no-show. But again, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. There's all these variables, and it really depends on the safety of the workplace, which is provided by the employer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are obviously so many legal issues to consider, but what about the mental health and psychological aspects associated with returning to work?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that. I've been doing research over the last couple of days, finding statistics on where employees stand as the economy is starting to open up. And honestly, I couldn't reach a conclusion. I couldn't extrapolate one thing from the statistics. What I found is that some employees feel isolated and at home, but they do have a fear of coming back. Others are ready to come back. The productivity, some are more productive at home and some both at the workplace. So it's a tough issue. And it does require a real balance by the employer to make sure that their employees, their mental health is good, because if employees are not balanced and become unstable at work, that can also create liability for the employer under a negligent supervision type of claim. So the employer has a lot to balance, managing both the legal aspects and making sure they have a healthy psychological workforce.
Yeah, we did a poll actually a few days ago on our show about this, if people are ready to return to work, and it's still very mixed. Some people not really fearful of the safety portion of it in terms of getting COVID, but rather the convenience, not having to go through traffic again, the convenience of being home, being productive. But you're right, it's still mixed, and it's hard to get a pulse on how people are feeling right now. This is not only challenging for the employees, but it's also challenging time for employers. So how are employers addressing these issues, and is there any guidance from the government on how to reopen safely?
And that's what I've heard from a lot of employers, is that they are frustrated that they haven't had good, solid, consistent guidance. It just depends on the state and county. The feds are coming up with things that are changing, and it's a moving target, and it's a pandemic. And so everyone has to understand that there are going to be these kind of moving pieces to it. So a lot of employers are really trying to figure it out. My sense is that they don't want to mandate anything. They don't want an employee to be forced to come into work that they're not feeling safe, or to get the vaccine. So employers, they're being encouraged to work with the employees, try and figure out what would make everyone satisfied. I will say, with regard to the resources, OSHA has put out a pretty good resource. It's at osha.gov, and they have a coronavirus safe work sort of guidance for employers. So for employers who are trying to figure this out, which I know is probably all employers at this point, I'd recommend going to the OSHA website and seeing if that can help you out.
Yeah, I mean, it is a new frontier for so many of us, so it's still so gray, not necessarily black and white. Well, Whitney, nice to see you. Thanks so much for going through that and coming on the show.
Oh, sure thing. Good to see you.